Hi, Marilyn.
Hi there. I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
We can't see you.
Good.
I know you can. I am having a bad hair day.
Yeah, I'm having a bad day too.
That's one thing I love about Zoom.
I was wondering where you were. I thought maybe you were actually at the meeting.
Nope. I will be next week though.
We're gonna be out of town next week, but I guess the week after, we won't have a choice.
Okay.
Too bad about the Zoom going away though, right?
I'll say. Been really handy.
If it's a matter of revenue, I'd consider paying for doing this.
I doubt, oh, Fred, you're maybe right. That didn't occur to me. Yeah. Huh.
I agree, Fred.
I'll turn that off. Okay. I'll mute them.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, why would it be revenue? But no. Huh. I thought they were just trying to see our pretty faces. Are you kidding me? Who's Covington? I bet he means.
Testing.
Testing 1, 2. Oh. Welcome, everyone.
So
Rachel is going to offer the invocation. Andy, we've got a really bad feedback on this.
Okay. When he comes up, then you'll unmute. Ah. Okay.
Test.
Oh my. Fiddlestick. Oh, hello. All right. Oh, there it is. There we go. No. Bless. which one is your control? There it is. And then which one is your controls here? That. Okay, so sound. And let's mute. Let's do this maybe. Okay. Nope. That's fine. All right. Whoop, oops, sorry. Sound output volume. Let's mute that. Okay, so we'll have to switch back to that. We'll have to switch back to the Acer when he starts his program.
All right.
Okay.
Well, hopefully you'll remember how to do that. Apologies. Testing. Okay. Just a little.
Hi, everyone. So today, I took an invocation that was actually an old Rotary invocation that I found, but it didn't quite fit what I wanted to say. So if you think you might have heard of this before, then I apologize. I did change it a bit. But let us stand quietly together, each of us according to our individual beliefs. Let us be thankful for the choices and opportunities we have in our daily lives. Let us be hopeful that our differences from each other will offer reasons for connection rather than division. Let us be optimistic that by the time we leave this world, it will be a better place than when we arrived. And let us be committed in doing our part every day in making that world a better place. Thank you.
Colleen. Following the pledge, Doug Moyer will lead us in the Army marching song.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. Please join me in saying our Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
So there are two slides. I'll hit the. Okay. Okay, take it away, Myrna.
Over hill, over dale, as we hit the dusty trail, and the army goes marching along.
Sorry.
In and out, hear them shout, counter march and ride about, and the army goes marching along. Then it's hi, hi, he, the field artillery. Shout out your numbers loud and strong. 2, 3, 4. Wherever you go, you will always know that the army goes marching along. Ho!
And that comes from 2 Army men. Who else do we have in the U.S. Army? All right, great, John. Excellent. Good group. Cream of the crop, I see. Okay, Kristen is going to introduce some visiting guests, but in the meantime, as she makes her way up, please stand and introduce your guest at this time. See, Steph's got the mic, getting the mic.
Check.
Rachel's over there.
Where am I going?
President Vaughan, fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce my friend and a great business insurance person, Joanne Schaub, visiting today.
And Andy with Zoom.
So our visiting Zoom members, our Rotarians that are visiting us by Zoom for the second to last week. Remember, everyone, next week is the last live Zoom meeting. Jackie Skay, Ron Parker, Ron Giles, Fred Baranowski, Jill Campbell, Donna Johnson, Marilyn Lynch, and Ken Manell are all joining us from Zoomland.
So Joanne Schwab is also a visiting Rotarian. She is in the San Marcos Rotary Club, and her name is very similar to another visiting Rotarian that we have here today, John Schwab. John, where are you? All right, well, we are going to welcome you both with our howdy song. Could you please stand? Howdy, we're glad to have you here. Welcome, we sing it loud and clear. Relax, enjoy the program, and won't you come back and see us again?
Nice to have the Schwabs with us. And welcome to all our guests, including those 8 people on Zoom who we look forward to seeing really soon. Okay. I'm not sure that anybody else is aware. Bob Resnick has been a little under the weather, and I haven't got any latest details. But if anyone knows anything, I'd welcome a comment. If not, I think he's... Oh, yeah. Thank you, Arlene. So for the Zoomers out there, the 8 of you, Bob has been ill and he's on a good mend path, hopes to be back in the immediate future. So Bob, if you're listening out there anywhere, we miss you. I think Robert Triebler is going to give us some update on Afghan and Ukraine.
Thank you, President Fawn, fellow Rotarians. An update on Ukraine, but first I'd like to share a quote with you from Thomas Paine, who was one of the founding fathers of our country. And he said, "My country is the world, and my religion is to do good." I think that speaks to every single Rotarian in this room and around the world. And so far, for our Ukrainian refugee efforts, we have raised, thanks to Trudy Bronner and Dr. Bronner's soap company, $5,000 contribution from Dr. Bronner's, $3,000 from our club, and we have had 2 individual donations, one for $100 and one for $500. So I kindly ask that you reach into your hearts and your wallets and be generous for the Ukrainians who need our help. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Bob. I think everybody knows that Alex is from Ukraine and her family is over there, some of them. So we might want to give her a special thought for her family. Okay, the coming program is there before you. The following 2 weeks, we will have a presentation from Alex Committee on our grants, which will be a great program. Looking forward to that. We do this just before our cours de cuisine, just to remind you the efforts that we make are in large part directed to our grantees who are 501c3 charities in our community. And we've been doing that for many, many years. Amber. And the beat goes on. So who is it today? I can't wait to see.
As per usual, the secret naming committee has continued to be hard at work. Let me reveal. Yeah. So Rachel Currington is terrific. The English discuss everything over a cup of tea: social gossip, war strategy, latest fashions, as well as life-changing decisions. Here we see our own Rachel Currington, one of England's most prominent, taking tea with the Queen. It is rumored that Rachel was advising Her Majesty that she and her family were emigrating to America, as her husband saw an opportunity for greater prosperity in designing video games in the US of A. The Queen appears to take the news quite in stride, but offered a bit of wisdom. She suggested that Rachel build on her knowledge of the dollar and the pound and seek her own success with the UK-founded firm of Edward Jones, perhaps as a financial advisor. Our hidden behind the curtain informant overheard Rachel promise the Queen that she'd learn to take tea American style. Rachel said with a twinkle that her great-grandmother passed down a bit of gossip. Americans love tea parties. In fact, Boston is known for throwing a tea party that has become famous. We are delighted that one of England's most prominent has settled among us. We knight you, Rachel, American style, and W terrific.
I knew you were famous, but that takes the cake. That's right. And welcome to the knighted chosen. I would like to invite John Schwab to come up. John is the chairman of the Escondido Chamber of Commerce Charitable Foundation and was instrumental this year again with the Rising Star program. We are extremely proud to be able to be a participant and encourage this continued work. We're giving John the Certificate of Appreciation for his efforts as part of this Chamber Foundation. And I was privileged to attend this presentation. And I have to say, as these 7 students gave their, what do you call it? Just a self-description of who they are, what they've become.
Yeah, just that type of speech, yes.
Yeah. Well, a very diverse group. And I tell you, it brought tears to my ears and eyes to see what these young people are doing. It's a great shot in the arm of confidence in the rising generation. So, John, we offer to you the certificate and our appreciation for your efforts to make this happen. I invite you to maybe share a comment or two with us.
Thank you, Vaughn. I'm the front man for the Chamber of Commerce's Charitable Foundation, which was just set up last year. The Rising Stars is a team effort. Our board consists of Virginia Brunell, Pauline Gordy, Yesenia Mendoza, and myself. In 2017, Rory Johnston, whom many of you probably know, established this program in Escondido. Thanks to her vision, as of today, over 200 Rising Star students have been recognized and over 40 scholarships given. And we are going to award 19 more this coming year, this coming June. We're focused on increasing our donor base so we can help more students. 2 of Escondido's Rotary clubs are Rising Star sponsors, and we'd like to see more. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I explained our longstanding scholarship program as well, and it's great to see Rotary as an interested group in youth making their efforts meaningful for the young people as they're moving forward with their educations. Before we get into the program, are there any other announcements I may have forgotten? I hope not. If not, then we will invite Chris to come up and lead us in. I've been working on the railroad version of this tribute to Dr. Casciani.
Well to well 100, yes, it can be done. Living longer and more fully, that's the goal we've just begun. Positivity and mindset, embracing change, it's true. Dr. Casciani knows this and plans to share it all with you. Gentlemen, did you know? Ladies, did you know? Healthy mental health is how our gardens grow. Someone's come to share the secrets we need. Someone has a PhD, we know. Dr. Casciani is that doctor. Not Keith Richards, but he's set to go.
Thank you, Chris. And I know you'll want to memorize these words yourself. So we have a fine printed version. Thanks, Alex. All right, I would invite at this time Dr. Doug Moyer to come and make the formal introduction of our speaker.
President Vaughn and fellow Rotarians, it's a great pleasure to welcome our speaker today. A native of Rochester, New York, educated in New York City, taught school there for a few years, and wisely decided that there were higher pursuits appropriate. Came to San Diego for his education, has been here since. Interest has shifted over time to resiliency, longevity, positivity. Is going to share some of his thoughts and observations with us today. So join us, and thank you.
Well, that's right. Someone has a birthday today. Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Doug. Happy birthday to you. All right, let's see. How we doing here? All right, no feedback. Woohoo! All right. Now let me test. 1, 2, no feedback. Good enough.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I want to thank Doug Moyer for the invitation. I'm always excited to be talking to groups about living longer and aging well and how to manage those setbacks. So you're here today to hear about my insights, my strategies for living well while living longer. Most of us have heard already the ingredients about longevity regarding fitness and diet and, exercise and staying engaged. But my concern is, we've learned a lot about aging well, but what happens when we have some setbacks? What happens when we hit those bumps in the road that may be expected, maybe unexpected? How does that affect our longevity, and how does that affect our outlook toward the future? So I'm going to talk to you today about different topics, things like mindset, overcoming depression, starting new chapters. And when we're finished, I hope you all have maybe a better idea about staying positive about getting older and looking forward to our future with inspiration, with excitement, and to really be celebrating aging. And I'm going to be talking about, again, as I said, a number of different topics, but let me give you a little background, my background first. I'm a psychologist. I worked my whole career with long-term care settings, skilled nursing facilities in particular. And I managed several practices. I worked with different companies and had my own company for the last 10 years. I learned a lot of things about working with older adults, obviously. Patients in nursing homes who are admitted for, physical problems, decline, mental decline, maybe behavior problems. And I worked with a lot of nursing staff, and I worked with families of the patients. I learned a lot, of course, but I'm going to share with you 3 lessons that I learned over these 36 years. The first one is that there's something that separates those who manage to adapt to setbacks like a stroke and those that don't. There's something going on in the person's mindset or outlook that helps them overcome or at least cope with these different events. And other people just say, I'm done, I can't handle anymore. And I was very concerned with what's the difference? How do we find out how to get that positive mindset and determination? So that was one lesson that I learned. The second lesson is that we are not our bodies, okay? From my perspective, our bodies decline, deteriorate, sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they don't cooperate, but we always have the me in there, whatever's going on, our consciousness or whatever we want to call it, that helps us to stay positive in the face of these setbacks and losses and decline. So even though our bodies may deteriorate or we might have some serious problems, we always have the me in there to stay positive, to have that, what I call that fire, that determination that helps us to wake up every morning with a smile on our face. That fire is in all of us. And the third lesson that I learned is that we have this bottomless reserve of fire and determination. And nobody can take that away from us. That's ours to keep. And we need that, we call it resilience, we call it grit, whatever we want to call it. We're going to need that to cope with these setbacks, these losses. So I started the Living to 100 Club to collect these insights with others. I have more slides.
Yes.
Okay. I'll just do that. So we're talking today about living to 100. To me, this is a metaphor that represents our attitude about getting older. It's not a destination necessarily. It's more the mindset that helps us to keep that positive outlook. So here are the 9 strategies I'm going to be touching on. Centenarians, age is only a number, thinking styles. That picture, by the way, is a picture of Alexander Soba. Alexander Soba crossed the Atlantic Ocean 3 times in a kayak, a solo kayak. The 3rd time was at age 70. So three times crossing the Atlantic Ocean, specially equipped kayak, of course. But for Alexander Soba, he says, when you get to looking at suffering, he calls it, it's just kind of a determination and motivation. It's what he called a contrarian self-determination. If you're not willing to suffer, he said, you can do nothing. You can sit and die. I don't want to die in my sleep. Now, I'm not recommending that we start to kayak across the ocean, but I am saying there's a lot of opportunities out there. We have a lot to cover. So let me get on to my first strategy. Okay. The blue zones. How many of you have heard of the blue zones? Anybody? Okay. So just quickly, a team of researchers went looking at all the longevity rates around the world, and they found 5 areas in the world where there's a highest level of centenarians, the oldest of the old, and they're living in these 5 regions. They came up with a lot of traits that were common among these centenarians, and they also had the lowest rates of chronic disease. So the 5 blue zones, the Greek island of Ikaria, that's pictured in the slide here, Okinawa Island in Japan, a region in Sardinia off the coast of Italy, Loma Linda here in Southern California is one of the 5, and the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. Anyone here from any of these 5 regions? If so, you should probably be up here instead of me. But I love talking about the blue zones because they've done some great work. And if you have time, look at their website, bluezones.com. They have just a lot of information about healthy aging. So let me share with you the lifestyle traits that they came up with. Again, across all of these 5 regions, they're very physical. They're not running marathons, they're not going to the gym necessarily, but they are physical. They're doing a lot of walking, they do gardening, they go up and down steps, they walk to town. They're very physical, physically active. That's just in their nature. Second, there is some use of alcohol, but it's in moderation. They're not saying no alcohol, but yeah, maybe 1 or 2 drinks, maybe glasses of wine a day. Number 3, they're engaged socially. They're always very active, connected to their friends and neighbors. And it's that engagement that really offers a lot of support, and kind of that engagement just helps people stay connected to each other and support one another. Number 4 is sense of purpose. I love this one because that means having some passion, some hobby, some interest, something that kind of puts a smile on your face in the morning, and you wake up and this is what my goal is today. I've got this. I'm working on this project. Maybe it's a new language, or maybe a course we're taking, or maybe a musical instrument. Whatever it is, there's some passion or some hobby. 5 is commitment to family, very closely connected with family members. Number 6 is the diet. We've heard so much about the plant-based diets, not a lot of meat, but vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts, squash, a lot of the plant slant foods, as we say. And again, meat, small portions, and it's not that they don't eat meat, but in the blue zones, they eat maybe 3 or 4 ounces of beef, maybe a few times a month. Not a lot of beef. Of course, there's other ways to get protein in our diet, so that's not a huge limitation. And number 7, sleep, 7 hours a night. So that's the blue zones. Again, bluezones.com, great website. You can sign up for that list and get their newsletters. Great information. Let me share one other piece. In 2016, National Institute of Health published some research about our longevity and our genetic disposition to live longer. And what they found is that only 30% of our longevity is due to our genes. That means 70% is due to our lifestyle factors. So the inference is we have a lot of control over how long we live. Even though our parents may not have lived very long, or our grandparents, 70% of our longevity is going to be based on our lifestyle factors. So that's, to me, a huge breakthrough. And, again, my parents lived, my father was mid-80s, my mother died in the early 90s. And, you wonder, could they have lived longer if they knew some of these facts about aging, the things that the blue zones have talked about and other lifestyle factors? I don't know. Let me take another minute to talk about the meaning and goals, this sense of purpose, something that brings, this sense of meaning to our lives, that we staying committed to something. Years ago, I was really fortunate to hear a young, then he was young, psychologist, gerontologist by the name of Ken Dykewald. Some of you may have heard of Ken Dykewald. He started a company called AgeWave, and in his last 20 years, he's done a lot of research on longevity and done a lot of contract work for the federal government and for private agencies. And this was back in the early 80s when I heard Ken. He talked about retirement being no longer a linear trajectory. It's a nonlinear trajectory. And he predicted, with the demographics aging and so many people living longer, he predicted, and he was right, that on retirement, we're no longer going to be kind of settling into the whatever it is people settle into, but we're going to start a new career. We're going to maybe go back to school, maybe get some degrees, maybe change our occupation, maybe not even work anymore, but do some volunteer work. But his point was that we have a lot more years, we're living longer, and we have a lot of opportunity to explore new opportunities, new environments, make new connections. And to me, that's crucial because we hear about unretirement, and I do a podcast weekly, and I had a guest on a few weeks ago, and he's written a book about unretirement, and it's all about what can we do after we retire from 40 years in our career, we're 65, 70, and now what? All right, so it's no longer that kind of predicted single line. It's up and down of cycles and changes up and down. All right. I have a slide that has a video in it, and with any luck, it's going to play because with Andrew's help, it played initially. This is a video of Joanna Quass. She took part in her first gymnastics tournament at the age of 10. She left gymnastics to marry and raise a family, and she went back to gymnastics at age 56, and she became the world's oldest gymnast. Unfortunately, Joanna passed away last year, but this is a great slide with a little video, and good. Just take a minute. She was 91 when she passed away last year. 91. Whenever I watch this grace and determination and poise, it reminds me of this study they did with baseball players. They looked at their baseball cards, baseball players who started playing before 1950. So they looked at 230 baseball cards, and they ranked them according to how intense the smile was in their picture on the baseball card. And what they found was those players with the biggest smiles lived on average 7 years longer than those without smiles. So if they had a smile on the baseball card, they lived 7 years, on average, 7 years longer than those without smiles. Fun study. Okay. Okay. This is a fun story. This is Emil Rottelband. Emil Rottelband lives in Holland. He's a single man, works in television. And he was unhappy. He was 69. He was unhappy being 69. He said, I want to change my age to 49. When I see other people changing their names, if I'm 49, I can get dates, I can get a bank loan, I can get a fast car, I can do all these things. So he went to the Dutch court and he said, I should be able to change my age to 49. I see people changing their names, that some of them are even changing their genders. Why can't I change my age to 49? Then I can be younger, I can get dates online, I can do all the fun things. Well, the Dutch court disagreed. They said, no, Mr. Rottelband, we cannot do that. In order to change your age, it's going to eliminate 20 years of records in our system. So unfortunately, you're going to have to stay chronologically 69, but you can feel as young as you want. So Emil Rottelband feels like he's 49, I think, but he's probably 70 by now. Age is only a number, right? Age is only a number. It's a mindset. Okay, we have one more quick video. Let's see. Two dancers, both in their 90s.
From a massacre,
fun. That's fun to watch. No, not again. Okay, I want to talk for a minute or two about thinking styles, how we explain events that happen to us, how we interpret events that happen to us, has a huge impact on how well we cope with these events. This is a picture of Epictetus. Epictetus was a slave, a Roman slave, for several years, and then his master set him free, and he went on to school, and he became a philosopher, and he was one of the founders of the school of Stoicism. And if we know anything about Stoicism, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know it's a lot of the ways that we interpret these events in our lives, like being a slave or whatever, is really controllable. It's manageable in how we explain these things to ourselves. So I think it's important to talk about our thinking style, whether it's positive or negative thinking. Are we looking at our world in a positive way? Are we looking at things in a negative way? The best example is the oldest. Is the glass half full or half empty? So an 8-ounce glass with 4 ounces of water is both half full and half empty. When I do presentations to large groups like this and I have more time, I like to do an exercise, and I split the room in half. And I say, everybody on the right side, I want you to look around the room and find everything that's wrong with it. Maybe stains on the carpet, scratches on the wall, maybe lights that aren't working. So find everything that's wrong. And then I ask the other half of the room, I want you to look around and find everything that's nice about it, maybe the light or the furniture or the fixtures. And then we reconvene, and I ask for their observations, and they share what they found was positive and negative. And my point is, it's the same room. What are you looking for? If you're looking for what's wrong, you'll find it. If you're looking for what's right, you'll find it. So positive thinking, again, marked by problem solving, perseverance, planning, possibility. Negative thinking, worrying, complaining, blaming, expecting the worst. What happens when we fall and maybe break our hip? Go to rehab? Are we going to stay engaged in that rehab and, get through it and follow our physical therapist and make progress and get back home? Or are we going to say, no, I don't have it in me? So again, how do we explain that? Is it positive or negative expectation? The second thinking style is, what can we control? And what can we not control? Because we worry a lot about things that we cannot control. Let me show you a slide with things that I can control. We cannot control taxes. We can't control the weather. We can't control the stock market. Of course, we've heard the list. But these are things that we can control. My attitude, my beliefs, my values, my thoughts, how often I exercise, how I express my thoughts, how often I ruminate on the past. This, to me, is really important, because I would talk with a lot of patients in the nursing home who look back years ago and they had a lot of regrets about what they did or said. They felt guilty, or maybe I treated my children the wrong way, or maybe I made a bad business decision. So how often do you ruminate on the past? We can't control our past. I would tell them, we can control how we look at that event, how we perceive that event, how we explain that event, but we can't change it. And I say, maybe at the time that was the best you could do, or maybe that seemed like the best decision. And today you might do something different, but you can't change it. All you can do is change your attitude. So being able to understand the difference between what we can control and what we cannot control, to me, that's a key to successful aging. And let's not worry about things that we have no control over, and let's focus on things like this that we can control. New chapters. There's always a succession of major life events that we experience. Going to school, graduating, getting a job, getting promoted, marrying, have children, promotions, retirement. These are chapters. And to me, we're always looking at starting new chapters. With each new milestone, we're starting this new chapter, whether it's liberating or not. Maybe it's not liberating. Maybe downsizing to a small home, maybe giving up the car keys, maybe a divorce or separation or the death of a spouse. That's a new chapter. How do I cope with my future? It looks so dark without my spouse, who I've been married to for 40 years. I don't think I can manage. So this is a chapter that we're going to have to wrestle with, and how do we find ourselves making it through that? Yes, there's grief. There's a lot of grieving to go, but there are ways to move through it and get beyond it. So imagine the person, maybe some of you know of individuals who are now caring for a spouse who's got Alzheimer's disease. It's not what we planned, it's not what we wanted, but this is our new chapter. This is what I'm faced with. And I'm going to have to write a new script about taking care of this spouse who has Alzheimer's and needs me as a full-time caregiver. That's a new chapter. And how do we explain that chapter is going to color how well we adapt to it. So to me, living longer is all about attitude and adapting and staying positive, even when things get in the way. I want to say a little bit more about projecting a new image on a blank screen. I think we have an opportunity. We don't know what's ahead of us. We have an opportunity to create a new character for ourselves. We can redefine who we are. I don't need to let yesterday define who I am today. This sounds maybe odd or unusual, but I don't have to let 20 years of living in El Centro define who I am today. I'm not just an example. 40 years as an accountant, that doesn't mean I have to be an accountant tomorrow or today. So we're always, think of it as a blank screen that we can project whatever we want on this screen. We create a new definition of ourselves. And to me, self-definition is a mental construction, and like any construction, it can be remodeled. There's a great story about Steve Jobs. Some of you may have read the biography, maybe know about Steve Jobs. Walter Isaacson did a great biography. Steve Jobs was adopted as an infant, okay? And Steve found out about this when he was 10 or 11 years old, preteen, and he was crushed. He was completely devastated. How could my parents, my own biological mother, give me up for adoption? I must be totally worthless. I must not have any value in the world. And his adoptive parents said, they found out, Steve learned this, and they said, no, Steve, when we saw you in the hospital as an infant, you were the most important person to us in the world. You were the most important person to us ever, and we couldn't imagine living without you in our lives. So imagine what Steve Jobs went through, going from totally worthless, no value, to now being the most important person. His adoptive parents didn't give him any new skills or talents or abilities. They told him what they thought, and now Steve had to shift his mindset from being totally worthless to now being most important. It's like a light switch. So imagine if Steve Jobs never had that conversation with his adoptive parents. No Apple, no iMac, no iPhone. Heck, we'd all be using Samsungs and Blackberries. I mean, so just have that conversation with yourself. Maybe if you've got something that you want to get away from, flip that switch and look at things in a different mindset. Stepping out of our comfort zones. You've heard the term comfort zone. It's that safe, familiar, comfortable place. It's predictable. We know where we are. People see us in a consistent way. We see others, predictably. So stepping out of the comfort zone means giving up that security, giving up that familiarity, and instead being open to new challenges. There's a book by Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Ourselves. And he talks about being open to new opportunities and opening new doors. And to me, that's what successful aging is all about, being ready to step out of that comfort zone and open some new doors and see what new opportunities there are. Routine is safe, yes, we know that. But stepping out of the comfort zone gives us opportunities to, maybe new experiences, new types of energy, new outlooks, new upsides to, viewing our years ahead. There's a story about Michelangelo. We know Michelangelo, a famous architect and sculptor. He was able to create these beautiful statues from, blocks of marble and granite. And others would say, how can you create such a beautiful work of art out of this block of marble? And he said simply, it's the sculptor's job to find the statue that's in that block of stone. There's a statue in every block of stone. It's the sculptor's job to find it. So maybe there's ways that we can tune into some new sides of ourselves that we're not in touch with, and maybe express that. Maybe it's a new definition of yourself. Let me introduce you to Edith Murway, the world's oldest competitive power lifter. She started weightlifting at age 91. I heard a story about her on NPR last fall. 91, and she set the world record at age 98, and she was able to lift 150 pounds in 2019 at age 98. So she turned 100 last fall. She says what she enjoys the most is the applause from the audience. Okay. Perseverance, overcoming setbacks. Perseverance is, to me, the most valuable trait. This is a picture of Roderick Sewell. He was the first double amputee to complete the Ironman triathlon in 2019. That's a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike race, and he did that kneeling on a hand cycle, and a 26-mile marathon wearing two prostheses, two legs, two artificial legs. He was born without tibias. He had both legs amputated as a child. He started his own fitness studio. The Challenge Athletes Foundation was a active member in it. So how many of us could do that? I had a patient in a nursing home who was admitted because he had circulatory advanced diabetes, really bad vascular disorder, and he had to have his leg amputated. Now, I'll call him Ralph. Ralph was a professional boxer. And for Ralph to see himself with only one leg, this was very difficult. How could, his boxing days were over, of course, but how could someone like me have one leg missing? Well, 3 months later, he had to have his second leg amputated. He was referred to me for, obviously adjustment problems and depression, and we worked a long time with Ralph, helping him to understand that the way his body looked doesn't have anything to do with his value and worth as a person. Get out of that. That's a trap. Yeah, you have some artificial legs now, but that has nothing to do with how valuable you are as a person, what your values are, and what your beliefs are. So that was, to me, that was an example of how we can, get trapped in equating our body and our beauty and our physical attraction to our worth. That's a trap. So we dig deep and we accomplish things we didn't know we were capable of accomplishing. How one exception can lift our depression. I promised you some strategies. To me, depression affects us in a lot of ways. It affects our appetite, our sleep, our mood, our emotions. But one thing it does very well is narrow our perspective. When we're depressed, all we see is what's wrong. All we see is what's, what the failures are, what the disappointments are, what I did wrong, the guilt, the regrets. We don't see the whole picture. And to me, it's like a filter that only lets in the bad and keeps out the depression. Filter keeps out whatever is good. So to me, it's like finding the exception that allows us to see the whole picture. I had a patient, just quickly, she was very negative, extremely negative, the most negative person. Everything was wrong. The food, the staff, her room, the bed, her roommate, the other residents, they made fun of her. Of course, she was so negative, who would want to be around her? I'll call her Harriet. And Harriet was completely down on everything. And to me, it was like, I've got to find something that Harriet can see that's good in her life. So one day I went in to see Harriet and I said, Harriet, is there anything that's gone right for you this week? Anything that's been good? I notice you find fault with a lot of things, but is there anything that's gone right? She said, well, the man who came in to fix my air conditioner this morning was nice. He smiled at me and said good morning. And I said, aha. If she can see one good thing, that's the exception that we need. And once we find one exception, we know there's more. So it's like taking off those filters. You know, horses are fitted with blinkers, like race horses and work horses. They're fitted with blinkers so they're not distracted by what's going on around them. Well, we're wearing blinkers when we're depressed, and we don't see the positives that are going on around us. So let's take those blinkers off and let's see the whole picture, because the negative picture is not the whole story. Let's see the good. I call them residual strengths. You know, we might have a lot of problems, but there are residual strengths. There's still things that are going right for us. And let's remove that restricted view of what's going on around. Okay. Just quickly, we could talk for hours about successful aging, what science has taught us, but what's important is, how is this information that I'm sharing with you today going to impact you and your own decision making? We know it's not a smooth road. We know the road ahead is bumpy, there's potholes, we're going to make detours, we're going to make turns and, you know, get over those obstacles. So how do we manage those events? And just quickly, if you're interested, go to my website. There's a lot of podcasts. I do weekly podcasts. I've done over 100 now. Weekly podcasts. There's blogs. There's a lot of information about successful aging. Anyway, take a look. There's a book I've written, Living Longer is the New Normal. You can find it on my website. It's on Amazon. Living Longer is the New Normal. So I do one-on-one coaching as well. So please visit the website, livingto100.club, not .com or .org. I thought .club was the right way to define my business. So when I opened today, I asked you to imagine how you'd feel with some of these ideas and strategies. Congratulations on being so attentive to my talk. Now you have this info and you can put it into action. I touched on centenarians, remember the blue zones? Talked about thinking patterns, positive or negative, what can I control, how am I interpreting events, talked about starting new chapters, redefining ourselves like Steve Jobs, overcoming setbacks, Rodney Sewell, and create a positive mindset. Remember, these are our best years. We have the maturity, the wisdom, the compassion, the independence to stay positive, and we can celebrate and embrace the notion of getting older. So from my perspective, to age successfully means coping with whatever comes along, whatever struggle comes our way. You know, we hope to live to 100. Maybe it's not going to happen. It's not in the cards for everybody. We know that, but we can stay positive along the way. We take control of our future, commit to moving forward no matter how many bumps we encounter. Even with losses of loved ones, we look forward. Even with a secure retirement, we look forward. Even with bodies that don't cooperate, we still look forward. Our beauty is in our spirit, our attitude, and our outlook. And here's my final message for you today. The best part is that this fire, this determination, this grit, whatever we want to call it, is ours. Nobody can take it away from us. Not our spouse, not our children, our adult children, our neighbors, our friends, our doctors. Nobody can take this fire and determine away from us. It's ours to keep forever. I'm open to any questions, or we have some people online. I'm happy to take some questions. Yes, hi. You can. Yeah, they're all recorded, and I publish one on the website every week. Just last week, I had a woman who wrote a book. She's from London. She wrote a book about growing up in London in the 1960s. It was a fun conversation. Anyway, you'll find all of them. There's 120 all there. And if you're on my mailing list, I send this announcement out every Friday about the latest podcast. So it's there. Yeah. Doctors, attorneys, fitness experts, all great conversations. Great conversations. Yes, other questions? Yes. Well, you know, there's a huge push for what we call aging in place. And the notion is to provide whatever resources are needed to help someone stay in their own home, because moving assisted living facilities, great, they provide a lot of extra support. Obviously, independent retirement communities do too, but staying in our own home means that we can bring in whatever help we need and live there as long as possible. So that's my recommendation. And I know the nursing home industry, I know retirement communities, assisted living, and they do a great job. It's tough work, but they do a great job. So the important thing is to look at the options, look at what's available and what your options are. I had a guest on who started the Senior Move Managers Association in the US years ago. And she said, you always have to have backup plans. And in fact, she said, you got plan A, have a plan B. She said, in fact, plan B often is the better plan. So if A doesn't work out, go to plan B. So that's important. Yeah, whenever possible, stay in your own home. I did pass out some surveys. Feel free if you want to take a minute and fold it in half when you're finished and leave it on the table. I offer one-on-one coaching, counseling for anyone that wants a little bit more personal time. So I appreciate your attention this afternoon.
Go ahead and talk. I don't need anything. Oh, you don't? No. Okay. All right, two quick points. I hope some of you I took some notes that I found very useful. Quick survey, 3 little things, gonna go really quick. Second thing, quick age survey. Who's over 90? 2 over 90, congratulations. You're doing something right. Who's over 85? 85 or over? 1, 2, 3, 4. Who's 80 to 85? All right. 75. All right, we have a strong group. That was where I was headed. I was wondering, am I keeping the right company at my age? I feel like one of the younger ones in this group. It's amazing. Last question. How many of you read the Centerview? How many of you read the Centerview this last week? Okay. I feel sorry for you that didn't. I would encourage you to look at that. Keith has asked some questions, and you won't know the answers unless you read the interview or the questions. And the little article, I don't usually comment on the articles I write, but the article on Know Yourself, the thought came, this would be a good topic, and boy, did it match up. So if you want a little bit of consideration on application of what we've learned today into your own brain, you might just take a look at the Centerview and ask yourself some of those questions and look at what knowing yourself can do. So thank you so much for being attendant. We had another great 55 people today involved, and looking forward to continued growth as we move forward. When are you going to tell us more about CORE? Real quick, yeah, we're 3 minutes over, but we need another pitch coming up at length.
Okay, so I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be doing a pitch coming up at length. And as part of that pitch, we are also going to have our COVID safety protocols, hopefully a good list of restaurants and wineries and breweries, and major shout outs to all of our sponsors who are returning, and those who have already signed up. I can't thank you enough. So look for me on the program this week or this coming week or the week after that. Thanks. You want me to do a closing thought? All right, I'm going to ring the bell. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week.